Hello folks, I'm Melly Little, and this is your daily TA wrap, where we take a look at these markets from a neoclassical perspective and ask ourselves what happened today, and what does it tell us about tomorrow. I do this show 4 times a week. I do it Monday through Thursday, live at 9 o'clock Eastern Time here from the base of the Rocky Mountains. Well, we finally got that long-awaited pullback. It's been a long time coming. Last night, we looked at the indexes and we said, oh, the Dow did trend transition. But there wasn't much else on the indexes telling us anything. But you know, stocks drive sectors, sectors drive indexes. So when we looked at the sectors, we saw them rolling over. We saw some ABCDs forming on the way down. We made the call by looking at supply and demand. I mean, looking at how it was setting up, looking at how the trend transitions and the little factors that you have to look at to try to tell what's going on. What they were telling us, and what they were telling us was just what you saw, and that was that we were going to try to roll over today, and boy, did we roll over. We started down and never lifted up. Let's look at the numbers. Ending numbers 225.5 lower, 15,112 on the industrials. We had 24 down on the SPX. 1661 was the close. Composite lost 63, 3606. The NDX was down 53, 3076 and a quarter, and the Russell led the way down a 1.93%, 20 points, 1027.6. We had gold shoot up. It was struggling most of the day, and then it just shot through the roof, up 30-something dollars today. Silver was up even more. They're both up again after hours. Dollar got killed. It was up, and then gave it all up, turned around, flipped around, went the other way. And commodities in general, they were pretty much up on the day. Okay, so what really happened here? What took place? Well, let's go pull up the indexes, and let's start with those. And not only what took place, but what's going to take place, right, is the question. That's always our question. And if we look at the indexes, and we start with the S&P, remember we got up here. If you go all the way back over, and we're about to lose this swing point, it's fixing to go off the board. It's been our measuring stick for some time. 687.18 was the high. The bottom of it is 1648. Okay, so that's the first measuring stick. We got up and broke it here on July 18th. This is roughly August 18th, so it's almost a month now. You've pretty much gone sideways, right? That was kind of the bottom of the range. That swing point low we just broke, 1676. We broke another one. 1671. That's going to trend change. The trend is going to change, right? It's going to transition 2 times. First to sideways off of this one, off of this one here, and then to bearish off of this one, because it broke them both. Now, when you transition 2 trends, that means you're moving pretty fast, or they were stacked up pretty close underneath you. Of course, that's what happens when you go sideways, right? You're consolidating or you're distributing. And you never really know until it tries to break one way or the other. But the fact that there were 2 of them here allows for a faster move when it gets started. But if we go look on a weekly basis, we're nowhere near breaking any kind of swing point lows here. We would have to get down another, what is that, lows? 1560? 1560 to get into that. And we're trading at 1661. So we'd have to go another 100 points on the S&P to get down to a swing point low. Now that low will transition. No, it won't. It's gonna. I mean, you're gonna have to go sideways for a while, or you're gonna have to cut 100 points off of this to get a break on the intermediate term. So that's just not that likely, at least not at this point in time. The article I wrote about this couple days ago was really arguing that point, and that is that if you're worrying about an 87 style crash, the setup just isn't there yet. And you can go read that article, and there's another one I pinned today that I'm assuming will come out tomorrow that embellishes that and talks about it furthermore. This was looking at the 1987 crash. That one takes and says, hey, it was the same in 2000, it was the same in 2007 and 8. The setups were the same, folks. Markets don't just magically go down and crash. You get a setup that takes place that allows that to happen. And so for us to just worry about it, it's going to happen now, and we've got to get out of the woods and protect ourselves. Well, if it's going to happen, it will happen in such a way that we can tell it's about to happen. We can tell when the risk level is increasing. We could tell the risk level was increasing here, right? We knew it was, and last night we got the signal, right? If you were watching things and you saw it in terms of the sectors, you could tell it was about to happen. You could protect yourself to some extent. Of course, I do this show after hours, so you're not going to hear that from me until after the fact. But markets do give you clues if you're really trying to pay attention to them. Okay, so that's the S&P. Now the question, really, let's not stop with what happened. And I'm not going to try to get into all the fundamental stuff that happened today. There was a lot of reports that came out. Basically, if you want a fundamental take, I'll give you the fundamental take. The fundamental take is that the glass used to be half full all the time. Now it's half empty. And that's all you need to know, because that's what's happening, right? All of a sudden, they're viewing the data differently. Now good data is bad data, and bad data is bad data. And it used to be that good data was good data, and bad data was good data. Glass is half empty, not half full. That's what's going on. The interpretation is that. Now, let's think about what comes next. The first thing you want to look at is, okay, what was this? Well, that was an ABCD down, right? The way it broke created the ABCD down. You got an A point up here, you got a B point here, you go up, and then actually your B was here, then you go up, and now you got an ABCD down. Well, that ABCD down just completed. If I look at the Dow, it's the same thing. It just completed. So we've already got the extension. Now you can measure other ways. You can measure your range, double your range down. That range is going to take you down into the 1640 area, about 1645 or so. And what is that going to do? It's going to bring you into the anchored support down here. Well, that's where buyers should show up. What did it do today? It did 34. Let me actually get this up higher so you can see the numbers. It did 34.2, right? The bar's coming back into 43. The swing point high it's coming back into is only 31. The bar it's into already is 34. So volume expands 34.2. You're coming into a bar that's 34.4. You're going to get down into the bottom of that guy, which is going to be the top of this, and the top of the one next to it, which is 35 million. 35. And so you can see that you're coming back in. Volume's not huge. You just finished an ABCD, and if you fold the range back down, you're going to come in to about where the range should end. So I suspect you're not going to get much farther on the first trip down. Now, what will it set up? Well, you just did an ABCD down. What you're going to be watching for is another ABCD down. So in other words, you get a bounce, you come back up, and then you set up another ABCD down. Dow Jones. On the Dow Jones, you're going to see pretty much the same situation, right? You're coming down on the weekly here. You can see how it's into the support zone already. The bottom of that swing point high on the Dow, 15,180. You're to 15,112 on the close tonight. Yeah, so you're back underneath it. You can see the volumes aren't there yet. The big bar, the swing point lows high, and you always want to watch that as they come back. That high is 15,075. So you're only 50 points away from it. Tagging that would make a lot of sense, right? So you're into this big volume bar, and you're coming back to try to tag that one. That's the weekly. Let's go back to the daily. So the daily looks a lot uglier. What did it do? It did an ABCD down as well, and it finished. It's already finished. Now, I'm looking here to see that it finished or not. And I think it did, yeah, finished. Okay, so ABCD's down, finishing off. All right, so if I look at where it is, it's coming into this big bar, right? The big bar down here is going to be the other volume bar, but you're coming into it. So you got support in here. These are not the important ones though, right? They're going to bounce probably if the strong ones bounce. That's what you want to look at, is the strong ones. So let's go look at those. NDX. You know that Apple was holding this guy up. You can see that, look, it's always nice to have perspective. Look at it on the weekly. What's it going to try to do? It's going to try to get back into the swing point high on a weekly. That's 30.53. It's trading at 30.76, and that's on a weekly. On the daily, though, it's already got back into the daily swing point high. That's a retest, regenerate. Volume over there was 17.193. You came into it with 17.4. Closed over it, 30.76. 30.71 was the low. So you come underneath the low, you close back over it, but you have a little heavier volume. That suggests to me that you're going to open lower tomorrow and you're going to test it again. But you can see you're not hammering this thing with high volume. And if you start looking for volume bars down here, they're all at the bottom of this support zone. 30.63 is that number. You got into 30.68. I wouldn't be surprised to try to see it get into that number, 30.63. Right now, what does it look like to me? Well, it looks like to me this thing's going to find support, flip around, and then it's going to try to set up an ABCD down. And that's going to be the measurement. Now, so far, it's held on the retest, regenerate on price, but not on volume. And so it will retest again. Now, you always want to look at two volume points. You want to look at the volume here, and you want to look at the volume on the breakout. In this particular case, though, the breakout was so far up that you're not really measuring against it. If the breakout was down in here somewhere, it'd be a little bit different, but it's so far up. It was 16.8 on the breakout. If I look at the broader composite, you can see on the weekly, it's just a little blimp so far. Of course, it looks different here. Matter of fact, let's go back to that weekly real quick. If I look at the weekly one more time, let me grab it again. So if I look at the weekly one more time, the swing point high that it wants to retest, regenerate here at some point is 35.32. And you can see from the daily, we're a long way away from that. That's another 60 points. Of course, we took 60 off today, so I guess it's possible. 35.32 would take you into the bottom of the support zone, and that is that swing point high over there, 35.32. That's going to be taken off the board on the daily, but the key test right now on the daily is this swing point high. It's a retest, regenerate, 36.24 high, 36.07, did 17.1. You come back into it with 17.4, so slightly higher volume. You got in as low as 3,600. Again, you got underneath it, the low. 36.07 was the low. You closed at 36.06. So actually, in this case, you're failing to retest and regenerate on the bullish retest, regenerate. It's close. That also tells me we're going to see some more testing tomorrow. I expect, though, if you look just a little over and say, okay, where's the big support in terms of price and volume? 22, and then the anchor bar here's got 18 on it, so you're coming back into that support zone. Pretty big volume there compared to what you're coming back with. That tells me we're probably not going to get that deep into it this time. And I know most people were probably worried about it tonight, but that doesn't look that bad to me. If I go over to the Russell broke underneath the swing point low, got back to the gap we were talking about. That was the place that you had to expect the buyers would probably come in the first time. 1027.84 was the low, 1027.61 was the close. So it's just closing barely into the gap. So this also will be an interesting tomorrow because that is a swing point low. So you broke two of them here on the way back. You also did an ABCD down that completed. Folks, it's not just on the indexes that it completed. If you go to the sectors, they all completed as well. So you've already ran the tables in terms of the velocity on the first drop. And that was made possible by multiple swing points that you were breaking on the way down, like in the SPX and on some of the others. So what's my take? My take is that you're probably very close to the first bounce. And it happened very quickly. In other words, if you didn't position prior to today, you're too late to position because it's probably over. Okay, now I'm going to flip over real quickly and run through some of these sectors. I've already done the numbers on some. I was flipping through them before I came on just to see what they look like. So let's quickly run through some of these. So let's start with what we usually do, the IYT. IYT had an ABCD down. We talked about it last night. And I'm going to pull this off because we don't need to look at the weeklies. Had an ABCD down. Volume expanded, right? Came into this bar. Now, this was the breakout bar. Volume over there was 642. You hit it with 722. If you go look a little bit farther back to see what else is over there, you got 1.083 on the large volume bar, wide price spread bar. Top of the guy is 113.79. You close inside of it, but you hit it with pretty good volume. This tells me this is going to test some more tomorrow, right? Because it got a pretty good bounce today. But it's probably going to test it again, and we're going to see if that volume expands or not. Again, two swing point lows, just like I was talking about, on the same time frame. That can lead to a fast move on this time frame, but the continuance when it's just one time frame isn't as much, right? You get the fast move and then it comes right back, and that's kind of what you're seeing here. ABCD down, done. Socks. The Sox actually set up and completed an ABCD down all on the same day. I mean, you had the setup, you broke it, you completed it all on the same day. No volume, back into kind of a heavy support area. That one's done. The XLB, remember it tested the highs yesterday and failed? Well, it came back, but it came back not too badly. Doing a retest regen. Decent volume as it comes into it, 40, 56. I would expect it tested a little bit more. XLE, that was trying to set up an ABCD down. It did do the ABCD down, and it's done already. Because these are little small ones, they're not getting very much plays. Volume expands, you broke one swing point low, you got another one down here below you, but I don't think that one's going to go very much farther. The XLF, remember this was our weakest one, this was our canary we've been watching. That one is doing an ABCD down as well, and it's almost done. And so it broke pretty good with some volume. If you pull back over and you start looking for the big bars, it's coming in the big bars already. It's going to finish up its ABCD tomorrow probably. The XLI, this one actually set up a small ABCD down and is done. And it came into support zone. I don't think it's going very farther. So you get my drift here. All the indexes, they've already done what they're probably going to do for the most part, but they're going to do a little bit more testing as a result of how they came back. Volume didn't expand tremendously, but it did expand as compared to what it was coming back to. All your sectors doing ABCDs down, well, they've done them. For the most part, they're done. I do want to look at one more I didn't get a chance to get to. Actually, I want to flip through the last ones here. The XLY was trying to do an ABCD down. It's done. Volume expands. So the XLY, you actually saw some pretty good volume. Now, what this tells me when you see these kinds of things, right, because you're coming back in to do a retest on here that you never did. Well, you're there, and you're back into the test right before it goes off the board, 58.09, got to 58.10, missed it by a penny. It will test it tomorrow, and it will actually test here on the breakout bar as well. Now, that's the one you want to compare to because it has the most volume. 58.06 is the low. This got to 58.10. I would think it's going to test it tomorrow. And then we'll see if volume expands again or not. The other one that we should look at, because of these last two or three I didn't get to, is the XLK. Remember, it was hanging up there. It looked like a an over-under, but it had a little bit more volume. Well, it was an over-under and came back. This one doesn't look that bad. It'll get a little deeper. Let's look at the XLY though. Consumer discretionary. A lot of the news today pointed to this as being done, and boy, did the volume come out of this one. I didn't actually look at this. So it's coming back to do the retest regen as well. Just like on the XLV, the breakout bar is the one that's going to be important, which will still be on the board tomorrow. 5806. Is this the one we just did? I thought we did the XLV. That number sounds familiar. 5806 and 5810. And so it's going to test it again tomorrow. Let me go back and look at the XLV. Was I looking at XLY? Yeah, I was. Okay, so the bar here, XLY didn't come back. I mean, excuse me, the XLY is the one that had the volume come out. XLV didn't. So that one is coming back into the retest regen, and volume's not that heavy. So that one actually looks like it will regenerate higher. So mixed bag in terms of, do we continue after a little bounce? That's not clear yet, but that's definitely what you got to be looking for, right? Because you do have retest regenerates. Let's go back over this real quick. You do have retest regenerates that failed on the general markets, on the weaker general markets. So if I go look at the SPX, remember we had a retest regenerate up here that failed. That was the first one. Now we're coming into this one. We're going to test the bottom and we'll see if it regenerates. And the breakout bar has almost as much volume, so that will be the comparison, these two, when it comes back. 1648 and 16, that was a gap. That was a gap up. So 1647 is the area. So that will be the test, right, on these. The second one down. On the others, it's the first one. And right now, broader composites failing, NDX is holding. But they're close. They're a close race. So let's go to the ox markets, because we had a lot of issues over here in the ox markets today. So let's flip through some of these. Let's start with the currency. So the dollar was up, and then just got taken to the woodshed. And let's see, volume. Really no volume as it came back, huh? But still, it's going to try to set up another ABCD down, which would take it underneath this bar if it fails. 2230, 2186. That's 44 off of this bar. That's going to take you down. I can't do the math. That's 28 more, right? That would take you down to 72, 72. That would take you down to 72. 2172. 2172, where does that line up on a weekly? Right into support. Right into the support zone. Exactly on the penny, actually. So the big test will be, is can it get underneath this bar or not? 2182. It was trying to get there last week. It didn't quite get to it. 2186 or something. Yeah. So it's going to try to get there. Okay, let's look at the other half of this. Let's look at the FXE. And it surges and it doesn't have the volume, but it gets over it and gets over resistance. So this one's going to go try to test the top. So it does look like this one is signaling the same thing. And this is all, if you think about the currencies, this is all the glass half empty. The idea that the Fed is going to taper, right? And if they're going to taper, that's going to make the dollar weaker. Why? Let me see here. Let me think this through again. So if you taper, you're taking money out of the system. Now, actually, I don't understand that. That wouldn't make the dollar weaker. That would make the dollar stronger. So why did the dollar get hit? Can't answer that. I'll have to think about that one. That one actually runs counter to what I would have thought. So maybe one of you can tell me. Maybe I'm missing something here. Let's go look at the bonds while we're mulling on that one. TLT, it broke it again. Let me see, volume expand. 12.8. 11.8. It's not that much. Let's go look at the monthly, since that's really what's happening. So it's trying to get underneath this bar. That's 106.08, and you got 281, and you're easily under it. The other wide price spread is 103.04. That's the bottom of this zone. Actually, the bottom is from this bar, which is 102.27. It's 253, and we're doing 88. We're about halfway through the month. That would be about 170. So you don't have the volume, but you keep coming down. Let me see what this monthly ABCD down is. Let me throw that in my spreadsheet right quick and see what that number is. Actually, I already have it. It's no, I don't. Yes, I do. 127.19. Yeah, it's from this price point. So 127.19, 114.62, and then this higher is 124. Yeah, I have it. It's 111.98 is the number. It's trading at 103. So it's already finished, if I'm doing the calculation right, because this is at 103.69. So yeah, you can see how stretched these things are. 103.69. This is like 7.5% below where it should be already in terms of the ABCD down. So I don't know what to say to that, except for things are stretched right now. We're stretched in this department. We're stretched on the interest rates on the other side of it. We're stretched in the currencies. We were stretched in the market, and that's evening out some now. Let's go look at some of these others real quick. So the dollar looks like, from tonight, looks to me like the dollar is going to try to press lower. Let's look at gold, because gold went the opposite way, right, with strength in the foreign currencies. And maybe the dollar got pushed around because of gold, for all I know. I can't really answer the dollar being weak today with what happened. Okay, so gold, remember, gold has been trying to push into this low where we broke down. Okay, and if we look at gold, let me go get a weekly. Here's a weekly. If we look at gold coming back in on the weekly, gold is coming back into a huge supply, right? So it's going to be very interesting to see if gold can keep coming, right? Because this is a big supply it's coming into. Now it's into it though. So the key tomorrow will be, and you got a break of 2 swing point highs. Actually, you got a break of 1 because you already broken 1. You broke another one today. You got some, looks to me like short covering, and you went straight into it. So tomorrow's going to be very interesting on gold. Can they keep pushing this thing? Is there going to be more short covering, or do you simply take it right back away? And that will be the case tomorrow. Boy, it looks like I'm talking too long tonight. Well, there's a lot to talk about. Sorry. Silver has been up like 15% already off the bottoms. Big, fast move. It's going to test the top. So I think we'll get a test. Just like we're going to get more tests on the downside on the stocks, you're going to get these tests on silver tomorrow, and on gold probably one more push. And is there anything else here I really need to talk about? No, I'm going to leave it at that. So tomorrow, you're going to see follow through the night in Asia. You're going to see it in Europe. Europe wasn't even down hardly. Those are going to follow through. That's going to certainly, you're going to open, flat to lower, and I would think lower. You're going to get your test in the morning, and then you're going to see if this thing's going to flip or not. If it flips, you could get a violent bounce right back up. If it doesn't flip, you could really start pushing some folks out that were in, right? Because one thing you always have to consider, and I'll leave it at this because I'm running way over here. I want to go back one more time to the general markets, and I want to especially look at the SPX. When you go sideways this long, right? That's a lot of people. Whoever bought up here now is in a losing position. That's a month of losers. That's a good number. That means that when you come back, that should be a fairly good resistance zone, right? And so you're going to want to look at how this thing comes back, and can it get back up into there or not? Because anyone that's in those positions is in losing positions, and now they're just hoping to get out. Now, if this thing keeps going, right, some of those are going to give up and get out. But if it hangs here, they're going to probably hang, and they're going to probably try to get out when it comes back. Nothing like trying to get out at even. So that will be a supply. And that's how anchored zones form. And that's why they tell you where supply and demand is. So, good segue, I guess, into the supply and demand. Folks, I appreciate you being out there. Tell a friend, tell two, and I'm going to leave it at that for tonight. I'm L.A. Little, and this is and was your daily TA Wrap. Have yourself a great night. Take care of yourself, and until next time, enjoy it while it lasts. Good night, folks.